Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling fantastic, buddy. We got 4 matches on deck in the coming week. We're going to do 4 straight shows, one after every match, chatting with all of our pals out here on the internet about it. Couldn't be more excited to get into some knockout football.
Let's go. Is this, I mean, I'm no mathematician, but is this 13 for 13 at this point?
You hit record on another show you hit record for the 13th time. So, I mean, I guess it's hard to argue with that logic.
Let's go, boat. All right. Mr. Grant Engel, where do I get started?
Let's do chronological order, my good man. What other way do we want to live our lives? So the first match happening on Wednesday, the mighty Norway, winners of Group A, versus Italy, the second place team from Group B.
This one should be interesting. So these two teams faced off twice last year in qualifying, I think as part of the Nations League. A draw in both of those matchups. 0-0, 1-1. I think pretty cagey. And also maybe what you would expect from these two different teams with these two different styles. So we've talked about Italy, kind of how they want to defend, play physical, be super opportunistic when they have chances. And then Norway is playing a little bit of, I don't want to call it hero ball, but, they've got great players that could change the game, in a flash. And I think we're seeing that. And also maybe we're seeing a player like Sinja Gaupset maybe elevate to that superstar level player that can, summon a moment, but also, uphold the pressure, and uphold the pace and really kind of like not just make it about, these flash in the pan type moments, but really make it like, hey, we're going to make you play all 90 minutes. A little bit, maybe a page out of Italy's book, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And, we are in the knockout stage for all of our pals over in Europe who might not always be locked into the March Madness tournament, big college basketball tournament over here in the USA. And frankly, I don't think Dino and I are ever really that locked into it because college basketball is largely terrible to watch. But you can see sometimes a young player get really, really hot and take their team far into the tournament for one shining moment, some people might say. And yeah, Sinja Gaupset could be that player. I think, it's definitely not unlikely that she could put together a great performance. We just have to see the manager start her, I think. And the performance against Iceland, I think it would be difficult to not start Sinja Gaupset.
Yeah, I think probably maybe even slightly more than difficult, probably impossible. I mean, I think we're at the point now where you can't really afford, you make a bad, move in the lineup and that could be 60 minutes of being behind the 8 ball a little bit. And, you fall behind a goal or two and there's just not that much time to claw back into a match. And a player like Gaupset is a beast physically. She could play 120, 150. I don't think there's a number of minutes where you'll start to see a player like that fade. She's just such a tank out there. But I want to get into a little bit of maybe some, not quite players to watch, but players that maybe we really love watching. We've gotten to know all of the 8 quarterfinalists. We did our homework. We've watched the games, bro. I'll kick it to you. Who is a player? We'll go one from each team that you really enjoy watching, that you're really looking forward to seeing in this matchup.
I'm going to start with Italy because I just want to get this out of the way. I mean, we've talked about Manuela Giuliano for a couple years at this point, from her work in the Champions League.
Also my pick.
Oh, okay. All right. So I guess we have some overlap here. So
let's go.
She's leading Italy in the last these Euro group stage matches. She has 13 progressive passes that leads the side. I also just want to say that she's really ratcheted up the shithousery a bit from what I'm used to seeing from her. And I think she wants to make sure that she's playing with that edge while also doing exactly what she does, delivering great passes. Just like we've seen her, do for Roma. And I think, do I want to see her do any of that in this match? Absolutely not. I don't. I want to see Norway limit that passing, and I think that would be one of their keys to victory, if I may borrow another sports radio cliche.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think she definitely has the the ability to hurt you. I mean, you look at her tournament though so far, subbed off in all 3 matches, Giuliano, which seems a little bit of a weird, factoid for a player 27 years old, one of the leaders at Roma, one of the leaders of this team, and just kind of hasn't really been able to get in rhythm. We know what she's capable of from watching her play in Roma. She almost connected with Elena Linari on that corner kick. Linari hits the post, got really close there to notching an assist. But I'm with you. I think Giuliano could be an absolute game breaker. Has not played anywhere near her potential the first 3 matches. So I totally agree that could be a player that could be in for a bit of an explosion. And then I'll go here on the Norway side. I think Ingrid Engen is somebody that could really be a needle mover. Yeah, I think Engen's going to play a huge role in just kind of moving the ball along and being like a physical presence, willing to battle, willing to duel in the midfield with that Italian side. So if Italy kind of overruns Norway in the midfield, that could be a really long day. But I'm looking for Engen to like really kind of take control of that match, control the tempo, control the touches, move the ball away from where Italy is, make them run around a little bit extra, and then really use that to build up some offensive momentum.
I think that's totally fair. And now I'm sorry, but I'm going to break the conceit for the format that you had laid out here, because you say, who's my favorite player to watch on Norway? Answer, all of the above. I'm rooting for all of them to do well. So let's do a thing. I've had some conversation with some of our Norwegian pals over Blue Sky in the YouTube comments. I talked about giving an 11 in my, wild antics that were happening after the Iceland victory. I'm ready to give the 11. And I don't think,
let's go.
and I think it's not going to be what you expect. So obviously in goal, it is going to be what you expect. Fiskerstrand. Now the defense, no Merit Brotberg Lund because of the red card. We'll live with that. We'll survive. We'll go with the same back 4 that we played versus Iceland. So from left to right, Hansen, Harviken, Mjelde, Voldvik. Special call out real quick to Tuva Hansen. Sophia Cantore is going to be occupying that side. Tuva, you got to come through for us. You got to limit Cantore as much as you possibly can. Hansen's played all night, has played every minute so far in the group stage. She's going to have to deal with Cantore. In the defensive midfield, I'm playing a 4-2-3-1, if you could believe it. I think I've been talked into it. I think I want to see Nalsund and Boa Risa back there, and I think I want Engen coming off the bench. And I think it is just because Nalsund has just shown a level of connectivity with her teammates that I think I can trust in this big of a spot.
Wow.
And shout out to our pal Bard, who I think has convinced me on some of this stuff. My 3 across, as you might, no surprises there. Gaupset, Monum, CGH. And now for the large one.
Okay.
24 years old striker, Manchester United, Elizabeth Turland.
Oh,
I like her work rate. I think I've been convinced. Ada Hegerberg's a legend. Ada, if we need you for 20, if we need you for 25, we know you'll be ready. But I think I like Turland's work rate, and I think some of our Norwegian pals have convinced me.
The Turland call is really interesting because I think you think about Italy at center back. I'm not sure who's going to be back there, but Linari is probably going to be back there. Sure. I feel like Linari maybe struggles a little bit more with Turland than she does with Hegerberg. I could be wrong about that, just a little bit of a different profile, but who's to say? I mean, you can't really go too wrong with who they've got up there, but I don't know. I think the lineup could look exactly like what you put forward, or it could look a lot different from what you put forward, like 3-4 players maybe potentially. So I'm very interested to see what that looks like come Wednesday.
I'm confident it will look very different from what I put forward, but I just want to get on the record. That's what I'd like to see. And then if it's not, and disaster strikes, which it won't, by the way, they're going to win the match, but let's just say complete disaster happens and Italy happens to win, then I can say, well, if you would have played my lineup, you would have won.
I mean, we're just winning. We win all the groups, we win all the matchups, we win all the arguments.
That's right.
What do you want to
That's
say?
right.
Let's scoot ahead. Thursday follows Wednesday in the chronology that is space-time. Big one here. Sweden, England. We're here. Yesterday we got to do the fun hypothetical of who'd you rather play, Germany, Sweden. I had a fun time imagining what a matchup against a wounded Germany would look like. But now we're here. Sweden is the opponent. That one's going down Thursday in that same 12 p.m. Pacific time slot. I wanted to hit you with one stat real quick. These are two of the top three teams in XG differential through the group stage. Sweden number 1 plus 7.2, England number 3 plus 6.0, despite the 2-1 loss to France to start the group stage. So I think these are, like I mentioned, the very, very upper crust of the teams that are left in this tournament. What are you going to be looking for when they lock up Thursday?
Alessia Russo had the quietest, 3-assist existence in football that I can remember, where people are like, oh yeah, she had those great assists. And I guess she won I think she got some consideration for player of the match in her 3-assist game, or maybe she won. Did she win it over LJ in that match?
She was Fatmam's highest rated that game.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that was the LJ 2-goal game, which I think was, you could definitely make it. And, you and I talked about it. That was the LJ game. I cannot remember. Apologies for doing this off the top of the head here. But, Russo, you mentioned her in our last show. Russo gets on the score sheet. She's going to need to compete with Sweden's defense, and she needs to make herself available for LJ, for Toon, Stanway, and Walsh. And Russo needs to occupy those dangerous areas. And I don't care if it's a rebound, I don't care if it's a counterattack, it's beat one player, it's a give and go with Hemp or something like that. I think Russo needs to get on the score sheet, which, is that mind-blowing analysis? Like, hey, I think to win, your number 9 has to score. No, but that's not why you come here. You come here because of our shining personalities. So I'll say, she's leading the team. You talk about that XG stat. Alessia Russo is still, with only 1 goal and 3 assists, she is leading the team in XG. And I think, she's still a creator out there. So I want to see her kind of pick it back up, and hopefully that momentum from the Wales match takes itself into the knockout round.
Yeah, I'm glad we're starting with Alessia Russo because as a number 9, obviously a good striker, probably a really good striker, but her ability to pass, back to the goal, just see the field, understand the stakes. You rarely see Alessia Russo take a bad shot or an ill-advised shot or a shot where it's like, oh, she had Kelly there. Oh, she had Mead there. She had Blackstone. You almost never see that. She's always dishing the right way, and she racks up the assists. And I think, there's a lot of talk about the modern game and the goalkeeper's responsibility. I think in the modern game today, with what wingers are able to do, what defensive midfielders are able to do upfield, and attacking midfielders, and just kind of how wide open the game is, I think the modern number 9 needs to look and play like Alessia Russo. We'll talk about Katoto too in France. That you just need a player that can see the field. It's almost like running the option. The player can strike, or they can pass and keep the play alive. And as a defender, if you've got to play both, it makes it really, really tricky. And then you've got a player of Russo's ability to able to hold the ball that deep, and it just compounds at Katoto as well. I mean, I think there are a lot of parallels between those two. But I think Russo, from that standpoint, has been a little bit dominant in this tournament. Yeah. I mean, she just has been extremely impactful. We saw it again today with her ability to kind of open things up.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And I think when she has kind of some of that hold up play, and she can, we talk about it, like, can you dribble, pass, and shoot? Can she kind of make defenders make some tough decisions? She can also force the goalkeeper into making some tough decisions, in terms of her positioning. And You need some of that if you're going to try to beat Jennifer Falk.
Absolutely. All right. So I had a couple players I'm going to be keeping an eye on the English side. It's got to be LJ for me. A little bit of a quiet game versus Wales in the third group stage match. But obviously we saw what she was able to do versus the Netherlands. And there's something to LJ's game where I think she does save a little bit for the biggest moments, and I think, it was definitely needed in that Netherlands match, a little bit less so versus Wales. I think Wales was kind of about opening things up, getting everybody going. But in this one against Sweden, a team that defensively has looked like maybe the class of the tournament, you're going to need LJ. You're going to need LJ to be special, in spots, in duels and in scenarios where maybe she's up against it. You're going to need her to, kind of like just be special. So I think I'll be watching LJ very closely. And then on the Sweden side, Felipe Engeldahl, player that you saw quite a bit, 28 years old, Real Madrid. I think she's been crucial, winning in the midfield, defending in the midfield, key passes, mixing it up, will shoot if she gets a shot, scores a goal versus Germany. This is a player that I think is a little bit of a linchpin, because if she's effective versus England, I think Sweden is all of a sudden in the driver's seat a little bit. If we see Engeldahl chasing a little bit behind, a little step slow versus Walsh versus Stanway versus LJ, maybe that could bode really, really well for England. So I kind of feel like that Engeldahl position is a position where a little bit of a bellwether for how Sweden's going to look.
That's a great call, man. And I think it goes to show that you and I are somewhat aligned on here, because the player I had to watch for Sweden is another midfielder who can do a lot of those kind of same things, unlock defenses. Kosovare Asllani. Probably I would have to imagine, you can never count anybody out, but more than likely the last dance for this 35-year-old in a Euro setting. She has 1 goal, 3 assists for her, just like Alessia Russo, and she has absolutely bossed matches in several spots. She has 36 progressive passes, which is nearly double that of her next closest teammate, Natalie Bjorn, with 19. Asllani, she passed Stina Blackstenius wide open in the last match for Germany, and she had a couple like unlocking passes, obviously, as indicated by the 3 assists. I mean, if she's just back there and you're not closing down space to kind of limit like her creativity on some of those passes, then you could be in for a long day.
Yeah, and I think just seeing that she's leading the pack in progressive passes means that as a number 10, she's getting the ball very deep in the action, getting involved defensively, serving as an outlet. And, she's got the skills, even at her age, to be able to run and to be able to just distribute the ball upfield either, just as easily. So Asllani, very close to being my favorite player. My bad. I broke the format. I wanted to make some picks and predictions so let's pick a winner. I feel like I know where you're going to go for the Wednesday matchup, but Norway, Italy, just for posterity's sake. Who do you got winning that matchup and advancing?
2-1 Norway.
I like it. I'm going to go 1-1 Norway, and they advance on penalty kicks.
Wow. Okay. That's exciting. I mean, I don't know if my blood pressure needs that, but that's fine.
Yeah, we're still in our prime, sort of. All right. Thursday, Sweden, England. Oh, this is a tough one. And I'll throw you a little curveball. Because of the way the bracket shakes out, you mentioned having gone back and listened to our mega preview recently to check in on our picks. You, my good man, predicted Spain and Sweden to appear in the final. That could happen the way the brackets have shaken out. We could see Sweden. We could see Spain. Me, on the other hand, I did pick Germany from the bottom of the bracket and England from the top of the bracket. So from a take integrity standpoint, a case could be made that I've got England in this match and you've got Sweden. But we'll just shove that off to the side for a second and, make some picks with somewhat of a clean slate. Who do you got in this one?
No, take integrity always rides. I won't. I'm an England supporter. I have been since I was 12 years old, playing FIFA 97, being like, oh, this team looks good. And like, oh, my ancestors, even though I really don't care about this I haven't cared about this for a long, long time, but like apparently, my ancestors are from that part of the world, if you can believe it from looking at me. But no, man, I care more about take integrity. It's why we do the show. I picked Sweden to win, to make it to the final, pardon me. And I'm not just going to back out of it just because they're playing the team that I've supported for a long time. So give me. Wow, I said all that, and now as I'm about to say it, I hate saying it. I'll do Sweden 1, England 0.
Wow, unreal. Wow. Okay. I'm in shock. I can't believe it. You did it.
Well, I can't pick him to make the final and then pick him to lose in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, it's our show, man. We can do whatever we want. And obviously, learning. We learned some new stuff, between yesterday and today. I mean, I don't know. England looked pretty good, if you ask me. No, but I understand. Sweden, they've looked unbeatable defensively, fully locked down. Offensively, they've definitely started to put it together, attacking from different angles. Rolfo, they've been able to work her into the lineup, to some positive effect for sure. So I can definitely see Sweden 1-0. But if you're asking me to make a pick and you're telling me to pick against the holders, the defending champions, my pick to appear in the final, give me England, never a doubt, from one of the co-hosts on the ITC. England 2, Sweden 0. I feel like they slammed the door. Sweden unable to break through. I think we see a little bit of a JRK Blackstenius struggle fest a little bit. And I think we see some big England breakthroughs. And I think the champs get it done. They send Sweden home again, unfortunately. So yeah, give me England 2-0. Take integrity.
Okay. No, it's a good pick. I like it. I like everything. I like everything about that pick. And if it happens, then my slate, my dance card is empty. I just get to hop right back on England. So that's totally fine.
There we go. Love it. All right. Let's go ahead. Friday matchup. The world champs here, Spain, take on the host country, Switzerland. I mentioned it. This one got some could get ugly potential. I don't see a ton of ways forward for Switzerland in terms of being able to make this competitive, let alone be able to get past the world champs here. But I don't know. What do we need to be looking for when Spain takes on Switzerland on Friday?
It's a tough road for Switzerland here. I think they should be thrilled with how they've played in this tournament. They should be thrilled with the way fans have come out and supported them. They're running into a juggernaut here. So it's hard to ask a lot from them. I think a relatively close competitive defeat. I think everybody goes home and kind of shrugs and goes, what are you going to do against Spain? I'm not sure how you say that in Swiss. What can you do against, like you said, the world champs? So, Spain is going to go in there. They're going to play their type of football. They're going to press the absolute hell out of Switzerland. They're going to have to try to do the thing where it's, okay, what's our third pass here? Let's not just think in terms of what the next pass is to try to beat this Spanish press. And, I think if they keep it competitive for 45 minutes, I think outsiders, no professional athlete is going to be happy with that. Like, they're going to be absolutely furious and say that they could have played better and said that they could have won the match. Totally understand. But I think if Switzerland keeps it competitive for the first half, I think fans should be relatively satisfied with that.
Yeah, you could probably make the case just being able to show up and take on the champs under these circumstances, the last 8, the elite 8, you might say, like that is an achievement in and of itself. And then just even being able to, be competitive or just kind of compete with the champions for a shot to get in the semifinal. That's huge for a country like Switzerland, who, if they weren't the host country, there are absolutely scenarios where they might not even make this field. I think they were where they were in the Nations League. I think they were in that League B mix. Didn't have to qualify, so I don't think we would have known either way. But I think just getting here a big step for this team, and they have the young players and they have the athleticism, and they've got some leadership and some experience on the roster as well. They've got enough to put together some moments within the match. Now, whether that means that they can make this like a 3-1, 3-2 type, maybe interesting. All right, well, we're watching down the stretch and, the door is slightly ajar. That's still left to be seen. But I think I'm leaning more toward the 5-0, 5-1 variety of Switzerland, maybe just not being able to break all the way through. I can see like a player like Geraldine Reuteler, who's going to be the player that I'm watching, I think, on Switzerland, just because her tenacity and her ability to find gaps and find opportunity on the pitch when there doesn't look like there's any have been really impressive and really inspiring. But I think Reuteler and the rest of that Swiss attack just not going to be able to put together any answers or any formula or any solutions for what that Spanish defense is going to be able to do. And I think they're going to spend most of the day, to be honest, defending and trying to keep Spain from pulling the ball out of the back of the net.
No doubt.
So I feel like it could be that kind of day for Switzerland, but I think absolutely something to be celebrated this entire run.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'll give my Switzerland player to watch. I think it has to be Livia Peng in goal. You get signed from Chelsea out of Werder Bremen for a reason, and if they're going to keep it close at all, I think you'll need a supernova performance from Peng. So
Great
I'll be
pick.
watching that closely, and even if you avoid the 5-0, I think everybody goes home happy.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll be watching Peng for sure. My Barcelona player to watch. I don't know if you dropped yours. It's got to be Claudia Pina for me. It's so stupid, but I got the you can't spell you can't spell 2-0 without tune in my head. I was just like, what a stupid joke, but I'm definitely gonna say it on the show. And when I was writing down Claudia Pina, I'm like, you can't spell pain without Pina, and I think that's just what other what other teams face when she steps on the field.
Yes.
I mean, she's just such a devastating player. You look at her FB ref, and she's 99th percentile in shots, 99th percentile in shot creating actions, and 99th percentile in just kicking the other team in the testicles at the worst possible time. So give me Claudia Pina, my player to watch, and one of my favorite players, I think, on the planet right now.
Yeah, totally fair. I got to point out, just because it's been a theme of the show, you did refer to her as one of the Barcelona players to watch at the top of that, but she's still a Barcelona player, and we will be watching her. So I think that tracks. I think you're totally fine. I think you're covered there.
At least I got the continent right.
There you go. And she plays for Barcelona. So I mean, what are we doing here?
Getting closer.
So I'll give you my Barcelona player to watch too, and I'm really gonna dig deep into the dossier here. I'm gonna be watching Alexia Putellas, two-time Ballon d'Or winner. It all starts with the Queen, I think. 3 goals, 4 assists in the group stage. She's leading the team in progressive passes and expected assists, and I'm really bought in to the narrative that we've been talking about since the very first match, that I think she wants this to be her tournament, and I think she's making it her tournament. And, she has another opportunity against an opponent that's going to be overmatched. She has another opportunity to put up another 2 goals and an assist, or 2 goals and 2 assists. It feels silly to kind of predict that thing from a player. Not her, though.
I'm so jealous of the Alexia comeback take. We love to make our NBA comps here on the show, and it reminds me a lot of Kawhi. Kawhi wins the title with the Spurs. Looks unbelievable. Devastating injury, just kind of career gets derailed much more so than Alexia's did. But then he comes back for Toronto and then reaches the absolute apex mountaintop of the sport again. In a sport where that doesn't usually happen. You don't usually get there, fall, get back there. I mean, there's just too much competition. And I think a real shocker, not a shocker, but a moment where you have to kind of just reflect on the greatness of an all-time great player to say, wow, this person got here, suffers the injury, has, the Ballon d'Or switch with Bonmati, the CGH in the mix. And I think there was some real, tumult in that midfield. There was some static with Giraldes, at the end, playing time where, Putellas wasn't getting really playing time down the stretch in the Champions League. So it wasn't really a clean, oh, she's back. Like, all right, now flip the lights back on, enter the theme music right back to where it was. She really had to work her way, weirdly enough, back onto that Barcelona side. And the Spain side, I think same thing. Really the team has kind of slotted in as the group stage has kind of rolled on here around her. And she's just become the absolute hub, the absolute focal point of the offense. And that's with a ton of other great players surrounding her.
Yeah. And her minutes are significant. I mean, obviously Bonmati was out with the meningitis at first, and then only played a couple minutes in the first match. But with those minutes overlapping with Bonmati, arguably the best player in the world right alongside her. So, yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about her. She's an all-time great, and she plays next to another all-time great. And I think they're going to demonstrate that for the remainder of this tournament.
No doubt. Yep, great pick. Really dug deep there, but I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Our fourth quarterfinal matchup closing out.
Would you real quick? Are you official 5-0 Spain, or what are we doing there?
I'll go 5-1 just because I think Non-Clades in goal for Spain has been a little shaky. With the caveat that if it's got that goy, it could be 5-0. If it's not got that goy, it could be 5-1.
Okay, give me 4-1.
All right, I like it. Okay. Shifting gears. One team that's looked incredible and one team that's looked a little less so. France taking on Germany on Saturday. I mean, it's going to be a star-studded match. You know, basic all-star players up and down the pitch. But two teams definitely in, I don't know, arrows pointing in different directions. Safe to say that?
I think so. I mean, you convinced me that Germany was definitely the arrow is there. Not even so much that the arrow is pointing the wrong direction, because I know you believe that, but also abandon all hope on the arrow switching directions.
What are you supposed to do? Like if you're that German defense that struggles kind of with Sweden, that France team, and I want to just kind of like use this to springboard right into my player to watch, which is Sandy Baltimore. I'm going to go with the Sandy pronunciation, just because that seems to be where the wind's blowing, and I'm
Love
with
it.
it. It sounds kind of cool. It doesn't sound so much like a Philly mob boss, Sandy Baltimore, but Sandy. Let's just kind of respect the pronunciation.
Sure.
Baltimore, obviously 25 years old, from Chelsea, wrecked England in that first matchup. And I just want to hit a couple stats, and these are, again, a courtesy of FBref. How about 95th percentile progressive passes received for Baltimore? 97th percentile for touches in the attacking penalty area per 90 and total shots per 90.
Yeah.
How about 99th percentile for non-penalty goals per 90 and progressive carries and successful take-ons? So let's just look at those three. She's 99th percentile in taking you on, progressive carry, just blowing right past you, and then non-penalty goals per 90. So she could do all three of those things, in a swoop. And not only can she do them, she's doing them in the 99th percentile versus all other footballers at her position. She is an absolute phenomenon, and she is a player that if you're Germany, I'm not sure how you're able to even sleep, trying to figure out how you're going to game plan against this player. Just has the absolute ability to kind of turn off your lights.
I think that's a great pick. I mean, we talk about her a lot. We've talked about her since her PSG days. I think she's a genius too, man. I mean, yeah. I love her ability to pick out the pass, to know when to cut in, to know when to stay out, to know when to pull up. She's just like a prototype winger with speed and smarts and skill and style. You really can't say enough about her. Great pick. I'm going to go, and part of her threat on that left wing is the reason I picked this player that I'm going to be very closely watching, and for Germany, and I think it's got to be Janina Minga. She's going to have to cover some ground, in that center back spot. She's going to have to provide some backup to, I think it'll likely be Catherine Hendrick, who we talked about last show, or the Group C closing show. You're working with your third choice right back, and you have Sandy Baltimore out there. Sandy Baltimore, pardon me. And so Minga's going to need to cover some ground, provide some backup, be a calm presence down there for the times where a France possession doesn't end in a shot, to be able to get the ball and not like totally freak out and just turn it back over, or just blast it out of bounds, or like do anything like that. So I think Minga's gonna loom very large here. And then also, oh, by the way, make sure you're staying in that central channel as well, so you can try to muck up the attack against, a pretty decent player, Marie Antoinette Katoto.
Oh my God. Yeah, Katoto, almost my pick. We talked about her on the Group D show. Like, her ability to, the first goal says it all. When Toletti scores the first goal against the Netherlands. So on that one, if you remember, Katoto's got the ball on the left side of the box, and not really in her normal spot, but sort of in range. And she's so dangerous, and just kind of like dances away with it, away from goal again, inside, back outside, and just before you know it, there's 4 defenders within 4 yards of Katoto, and where Katoto is their primary assignment. Once Katoto's kind of moved into that space, so she's not drowning 4 players, Cascarino on the other side has drawn in 2 players. So now you've got 6 defenders covering 2 players, and then you've
Yeah.
got Toletti at the edge of the box who just has time to kick it, take a look, check or watch, and just place it. Not even that hard. just
Yeah.
place it perfectly in a spot. We talked about this game, yesterday, but just to kind of rehash it, in a spot where that's a nervy moment, man. 20-ish minutes into a match, 0-0 against the Netherlands, and sure, you're in the driver's seat if you're France, but there are scenarios where you get eliminated. I mean, they're doomsday scenarios, but it is possible. So big moment for Katoto to make a perfect pass to Letty. Great touch and great finish. But yeah, to your point, Katoto, like Alessi Russo that we were talking about, just an opener up of things.
Yes. No, it's a great call. I mean, I just think, I understand your German pessimism here, or your pessimism around Germany. We'll call it. Like I mentioned after Group C, when Wamser gets the red card, it's just like, how on earth are you going to be able to cope with France and their attack? Which leads me into my player to watch for France. You mentioned her there briefly as somebody who has gravity herself. Delphine Cascarino, we talked about her in the recap of round 3 in Group D. She looked like the absolute superstar that she is. She has 2 goals, 2 assists so far in the tournament. There's just too much for Germany to worry about in this match. I mean, we know they have players who can produce, and this is speaking of Germany, we know they have players who can produce great quality in moments. I'm having a hard time thinking that over the course of these next 90 minutes when these 2 teams play, that Germany will be able to produce that quality consistently enough to cope with this France attack.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think I'm glad you kind of set it up that way, because the player that I'm going to be watching on the German side is a player that I think could be a little bit of an unlock, especially through that central channel, Shukanuskin, who plays for Chelsea, 24-year-old player who we just kind of haven't seen get busy. And what's Nuskin's strength is ripping shots from the outside of the box, kind of acting a little bit like a forward, and spots are just like, oh, what, they've got 5 forwards now up here, and they're all kind of playing, aggressive and looking to score and have that ability. Nuskin does have that ability on her best day. She can score like a striker, or like a winger. I mean, she can hit from distance too, and she can put pressure on your back line, in the box. She's just that kind of player that, I don't know, can keep you, put you on your heels a little bit, because she can be that aggressive. But on the flip side, we have seen Nuskin look a little disengaged. It doesn't look like the ball's coming her way, and those chances to score are not going to happen. But I think if Germany's going to have any shot versus France, to your point, they're going to have to lock down defensively, and they're going to have to do more offensively. That's not just Bull on one side and Hugh LeBron on the other. So it's going to have to. There's going to have something that happens through the middle or inside out, or something that France has a little bit more of a problem seeing coming. And I think for me, the key to that probably going to be Nuskin in the midfield.
Yeah, I think that's their best chance. If you can get a great game from Nuskin and Sens, they might be able to make it a little interesting.
Agreed. All right, let's hit a prediction here. What are you thinking?
Give me 3-1 France, and just for fun, I think we'll get another Ulebrand moment where she just uncorks one. Maybe it's late. Maybe they're already down by 2. Maybe they're already down 3 at that point. But I think Brand has one more thing to say before this tournament ends.
Interesting. Yeah, I am in full agreement with that. I kind of was swinging back between 3-1 and 3-2. And I think I'm with you. I think I could see it 3-1 late, and then maybe Germany scratching one back. Maybe it is that a Ulebrand moment, on the way out the door. But I just don't think I could also see a 4-2 type scenario where just France, has their run of things offensively. And the other key thing about France that I didn't mention, over the 3 group stage matches, France has 9 different goal scorers.
Amazing.
No goal scorer with more than 2. Katoto, Cascarino have 2. And then these 7 players have a goal each. Toletti, Karshawi, Clara Mateo, who needs more minutes, by the way. I'd love to see some Clara Mateo minutes. She's a whole other match. I mean, talk about another matchup problem for Germany, potentially. Kadi Diani, Amel Majri, Grace Gayoro, Sandy Baltimore. So 9 different goal scorers. We might get 9 different goal scorers against Germany with that defense, but hopefully we don't. Hopefully we get a little bit more of a competitive matchup.
Yeah, no, that's a great stat. Great call out on Mateo. And things are going really, really, really well for France when we have not talked about Kadi Diani. I mean, my God, like how stacked is this team?
Unbelievable. No, they're loaded at every position, and they've somehow figured out a way to kind of balance the minutes pretty nicely. Like it seems like now it's like, oh, now we're getting the minutes with, this setup and like, these attackers. I don't know. I feel like teams are always on their heels. And it's going to be tough to scout this French team down the stretch because they have just so many different moves they can go to, and Dongala, like down the stretch draws a penalty, it's like that wasn't in the scouting report. So it's like, I don't know, just so much you have to account for playing a team like this, but it is Germany. And as mentioned, I think their tournament is a wrap. So, I mean, I think they could just probably, I don't know, put those fitness trackers on there, go out there, log some kilometers, and then call it a tournament.
If I know anything about Germany, I mean, we saw it when they played all their players against Sweden. They're going to go out there and play their asses off. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I mean, you don't want anybody to get a red card because then your guy Verk might throw out the white flag there. I know you didn't like those quotes. It's funny when I went back and listened to the preview, the predictions part. You said something very close to, and I quote, "I'm riding with my guy Christian Verk," and then I thought about the last show when he had those quotes about how like we didn't have a chance against Sweden, and I believe your quote yesterday was, "Get this fucking guy out of here." It's so good.
Let that be a testament to how much you mean to me that I would never turn on you so quickly as I turned on Christian Verk.
I appreciate that. That's good. We got a little more of a rapport, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like to move quickly, man. I learned some things, and I'm ready to pull the cord quick. I'd be, that's the kind of GM I'd be. Also, I'd just be like, get her out of here. That's done. It's over.
Yeah, explore the transfer market. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I'd be terrible at that job. So thankfully, I've got this job.
There you go.
Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think we've done it, my good man. I'm extremely ready for these 4 matches coming up. I think we're in for some bangers.
Absolutely. All right, man. Quick episode calendar. We'll be back Wednesday. It's been 13 days in a row. I don't want to elongate this. We'll see you in a few days. Just hang in there. As soon as Norway, Italy wraps, we'll be in the lab cooking up these takes, getting ready to come back and circle back with you, share our thoughts and hear some of your thoughts. So we definitely appreciate you hanging out and chiming in. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for hanging out, for enduring this very mini truncated quarterfinals preview with your boys. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the show or love Women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking it with us each and every single week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes 7 times a week. Like, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials, except one, in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grand Angle 4. What do you know, man? We made it. Knockout football. We're here. We won every group that we took part in. And, we're not going to stop until, we're lifting that trophy as a team. So I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. Nobody I'd rather do it with. And you know what? I've thought more about the take integrity point. I'm sticking with. I picked Sweden to make the final, but I'll just throw it out there. I still think England could win the tournament. So I'm gonna play both sides on this one. Why not? So that's my final thought. Is I'm gonna go real controversial and say I still think England can win this tournament. So to all my fellow English supporters out there, don't turn your back on me. Don't call me a coward. I made the pick before any match was played. It's hard to win 2 Euros in a row, but we'll just see how it all plays out. And we're going to reconvene on Wednesday, like Dino said, Norway, Italy, another opportunity for me to step on a rake and everybody to make fun of me for my Norway optimism. So we'll see that too. We appreciate you guys tuning in, always dropping knowledge in the comments, and we will see you all next time.
Yeah, and all you rejected England fans, come over to my side of the pod. It's nice and warm over here. Plenty of space.
Put it to a poll.
I appreciate you, man.
Likewise.